Succession planning. So I haven't really been a huge company hopper. I did 8 years with Compass Group. I did nearly 3 years with Game Digital, and I've done nearly 3 years with Live Company Group, albeit a very large part of that has been self-employed, but I still remain with the business. But succession planning is everything. I think because when you get high-performing individuals, people with the ability that I talked about, they're likeable, they can communicate, they're a good person. What you're going to find is that's a very, very difficult environment to manage. You have to be a very confident leader when you go out and recruit high-performing individuals, because with high-performing individuals comes some big highs, some low lows, but actually a lot of ambition, and progression is wanted, progression is desired, and progression is required. If you don't feed the beast, they will flee the nest. Because they're disloyal, and they'll always give you time. I've never really met many people that are good people that at the first sign of not getting what they want, they flee. They work harder, but you have to be able to create a system whereby they can see a ladder. And when I say a ladder, that just doesn't necessarily mean a hierarchy. Hierarchy is vital, by the way, vital, because it gives you the pyramid. In terms of chain of command, and I'm not a huge one for that, I'm very autonomous, but I think it's very important that there is a decision-making structure, but also that provides the framework for promotion. And I think when you find super talented individuals, there can at times be a glass ceiling put on their progression. So what you have to do in that scenario is create a role. You should never be afraid. You can't just bespoke role, because you'll compromise your own structure. But any good leader will know that, so I don't need to teach you that. But actually what you need to be able to do is carrot and stick.
Carrot and stick. I like it.
Every ambitious person wants the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But actually there's a carrot here, and along the way there's a series of sticks or hurdles that they need to jump over, and when they get to that carrot, you as the manager, you fucking have to let them have that reward, whatever that reward is that you have agreed, because what you will do is you will demoralise that person, and they could have spent 6, 12, 18 months chasing that goal, and when they get there, they sure as shit better be rewarded for that. The thing is that you've agreed you need to deliver on that. But when you do deliver on that, that gives you the bedrock of what succession planning looks like. Part of succession planning for me is whenever you go into a business is get to know all the individuals, understand what they're about, and kill out the deadwood. Never be frightened to remove people. The cultural terrorists, rip them out. Because what that does is it, 1, changes culture overnight, 2, it lifts the mood, 3, shows to a degree you're not to be messed with, but 4, it gives your staff, your employees, the belief that you won't sit on the fence or be found wanting when the tough decisions need to get made. And again, it's another platform by which succession planning starts from. So you've recruited good people, you've laid the carrots for which they want to hit their goals and their ambitions, you've put a structure in place, you've weeded out the deadwood. So if when you meet these people, anybody that you think's got something about them, they go on a list in your mind, or if you're in a big company with HR team, they go on a piece of paper somewhere. And you never have a one-size-fits-all management style. Anyone that is going to be in that kind of top right, whoever's going to be your highest performance, you need to have a plan for that individual. Talks about that reward piece again, but actually you need to set them some really challenging assignments. And for someone who's fledgling, the best example I can give is if you take a guy who I used to work with He was this phenomenal mind, very commercial, but never managed a team. It took me 3 years to get him into a position where he could have the most value for the company I was in at the time. But you had to go in baby steps, because for 2 of those years he worked as an individual. But as an individual, it's where he is his most outstanding. He's hardworking, he's diligent, he's bright, he doesn't miss deadlines. But at times he can struggle with commanding the team. But for him to hit the objectives he'd set himself, managing a team was a vital component of that. So over time, I laid a career path out for him that ultimately benefited me, because there was areas of the business that were underperforming, so I used him to fix them because his skill sets were exemplary for that. And then each time he became more confident when he got the carrot. And he had a few knocks along the way. By the time we got him to manage people, it's still never going to be his number one skill, but he fundamentally could walk into that and command some respect, because his colleagues had seen all that he'd achieved along the way and actually thought rightly that he was a hugely capable individual. So that's an example of succession planning, in the sense that you're preparing for that person's promotion, and every time somebody leaves your business, you've got people in the wings that you slot in. They might not be an absolute perfect fit, but if 70% fit, get them in there, that they can knock on your door at any time if they're struggling, and you're going to support them. The next part is never be frightened to promote youth. And I say this as a 33-year-old that's held executive roles. A couple of people at Sheffield United Football Club took a chance on me at 22 years old and made me the general manager of that football club. Arguably, I had no right to have that job. But when I talk about valuing ability over skill, and particularly in this scenario, experience, I was managing people that were twice my age, and even the people that weren't twice my age, they were still 10 years older than me. And that business was not performing well at the point I inherited it, which, let's be honest, it's why I inherited it. Otherwise, it would have had a much more experienced person in place.
Roy, satisfying day at the office for you?
Yes, very. Not take the piss here.
I wasn't scared of age. I suppose inherently believe in ability over everything else. I just picked the best performers, and unfortunately I probably had to lay off about 11 or 12 people of that management team and get a core management team of 10 or 11 that would manage the others. And I probably half the average age, somewhat led by maybe subconsciously an insecurity about my age. Looking back now, I don't know, because it was 11 years ago. But actually, what I was after was high-performing individuals, not people carrying baggage. And baggage is nothing to do with age. You can have young people that carry baggage. They have a set of pre-expectations about what life is, what the job should be for them, what you owe them. What I want is people that are going to give me everything, and in return I'll give them everything back. And when I say give me everything, take holidays, take days off, but I'm not going to question it. If you're part of the management team, I assume you're going to do your job. So you better do it. It's just if you don't, that's the point when I'll step in. So in terms of succession planning there, what I created was a structure where we'd got some experienced people that gave me a chance. They were hugely cynical about me as a leader, and I don't blame them. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but they gave me their time, they gave me their support, but actually they gave me their respect, because I think they could see I had something. And I come back to why I was recruited. Ability was put above everything else, and it was assumed I'd learn the rest, and I did. So then I followed that mantra. I recruited what I perceived to be hugely talented, high-performing individuals that didn't know it. So someone that went on to run the kiosks, the kind of catering-y bit where you get served the pie and the pint. The lad that I took on was unusual socially, but he was very likeable. Not the best communicator, but he could communicate. So that was one of the parts that I had to support him on, and it was particularly key criteria for me. So I made that clear to him that he had to make inroads quickly on that. But to give you an example, and I will use Sheffield United in this video because I think it's a good example of how early I adopted this kind of thesis. That guy came with me to my next 3 jobs at Leicester City Football Club. the Rico Arena, and he stayed with me for longer than he really wanted to because we were loyal to one another, but he'd outgrown the jobs I could give him. He is now an air traffic controller in the RAF. That's the level of capability and the ability of spotting talent, but succession planning, because every time his managers left, I gave him the next job. I'll give you another example. The HR manager at Sheffield United Football Club, she used to work in the club shop. I'd briefly met her in some other conversations. She'd alluded to the fact that she wanted more from life and was thinking about doing a HR qualification, and a couple of the very senior team at Sheffield United Football Club thought very fondly of her. So when I said to them that I wanted to look at this particular girl, they were so supportive, and a lot of employers wouldn't have been, but they obviously gave me a chance. Lady's now gone on to become the head of HR in a really big kind of jockey club based business. Another one of the lads that was a supervisor in a restaurant, super capable. We moved him up to restaurant supervisor to restaurant manager, and one of the others spotted him. I didn't, but as I got to know, it was super clear that he had ability. And when I moved to Edgbaston Cricket Club, they were looking for an operations manager there, so I put him forward, and he went there, and he went on to become the head of catering, and he's now the general manager of another business. Another lad was a supervisor on the kiosks again, the Pie Pint hot dogs. And he, within 2 years, became my accountant. He wasn't qualified, but again, valuability above everything else. The qualifications over time will come if that's the career he chooses to go down. But actually that guy now is the head of finance in a hotel business. So I'm using these examples. They've gone on to become executive level people, but it was because I didn't have any of the baggage or any of the pre-expectations of what an individual should be. The only criteria I could score people on were things I understood because I didn't know anything else. So I could only judge ability. Did I like you? Did you seem trustworthy? Did you seem honest? Were you diligent? Could you communicate? Because they were the only skills I understood at that point. So what it did very quickly, and that business at Sheffield United through succession planning, every one of those juniors became a manager within 6 months, became senior manager within 18 months. And by the time I left Sheffield United Football Club 2 or 3 years later, they were all, and some of them are still there now, they were all in senior positions. And some of the supervisors that they recruited, like I'd done, are now their management team. That is one of the finest examples of succession planning. I don't want to take all the credit for that because those people earned the right to have those jobs. But I feel like I played a small part in that because I recruited people that shared my vision and my values, and they looked for the same thing. And a number of those staff still today ring me if they need something, use me as a reference. In summary, you've recruited the right individuals to begin with. You've removed the wrong ones because that encourages the good ones. You give opportunity. You set very clear goals and objectives with the carrot and make sure that if they hit the carrot, you give it them. And whenever a promotion is in the offing, if you can ever go internal rather than external in terms of succession planning, it's always important to do that. There will be times, and many managers who are watching this will know, where you need an external body. You need someone that's going to come in, bang, make an impact, that does what they say on the tin, are going to give you value for money on day one. And sometimes you're never going to be able to get away from that. And when that happens, you still need to be able to motivate those people that you've been cultivating. But if 8 times out of 10 you can pick from the pool, it's like a football club. You always want to bring through the youth. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. I feel lucky that I've got it right many more times than I've got it wrong. But when you do get it wrong, that should not put you off having the opportunity to get it right the next time. succession planning is a huge part of any successful business. So that's it for today. I'll come back in the future with some other videos and hopefully some, like, I don't want to call it masterclasses, sounds a bit arrogant, but some kind of 10, 15, 20-minute videos about parts of businesses that people typically struggle with, and when you get it wrong it really can suffocate the progression of your business, but when you get it right it really does flourish, and it can be a really massive thing for the growth of a company and the growth of the individuals in it. So as always, stay safe, wash your hands, socially distance, but have a good one and